Hey everybody, welcome back to E3 Aviation. Today we're going to cover the top 10 things that most pilots wish they knew before becoming a pilot. You know, here at E3 Aviation, we're very lucky to have thousands and thousands of seasoned pilots that are members, and a lot of young students and younger pilots. And one thing we get asked a lot, what are the things we wished we knew before we became a pilot? Well, if you're just starting your training, maybe you've been training for a little while, or even if you have less than 1,000 hours, by the end of this video, you're going to learn a lot of these secrets that we all wish we knew. Now, if you think only top students make it in aviation, well, you're in for a surprise. Well, imagine setting your sights on the skies, training really hard, and at the end of the day, realizing there was some game-changing secrets that you wish you knew in the beginning. Well, we've got some very special pilots on this video, and we're going to pull back the curtain on a lot of those game-changing secrets. And then stay to the end, because the last couple of ones might be a total surprise to you that might change your approach to aviation, and we have a very special gift for you. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, many successful pilots bypass traditional college education to focus on flight training. There are hyper-focused training schools like the company we work with, Academy of Aviation, that'll get you through fast and get you placed as well. So common misconception number one is that you need to have a college education to be a pilot. Now, there are some pros to having a college education, but it's not necessarily needed. Why it's important, starting your training earlier than later is better and can save you a lot of time and money. Many airlines and insurance companies prioritize your experience over a college education. Now, if you think being a pilot is racing through your training, well, think again. But there are some things that can save you a lot of time and money. So we're going to hand it over to Trent and let him hit number two.
Now, one of the biggest things that can intrude on a student's ability to get across the finish line is finances. And there's no way around this. Flying is more expensive than not flying, and flight training can be very expensive because you're paying for an instructor and oftentimes renting an airplane. So approaching this, I think it's smart to do two things. One is to plan ahead. It's good to save up as much as you can to hopefully have enough to get you all the way through your flight training. And what this does is it allows you to be consistent and stay active in your flight training, because the more time you spend out of the cockpit, the more time you're going to spend on the next flight trying to catch back up to speed. So being able to stay consistent and fly regularly is super important. Now, with all that said, this is not just a means to an end. This, if you're getting into flying, it's something you're going to want to continue doing in the future. So I think it's really important to factor a budget of how much you're willing to allow to this new passion of yours that is flying. So that can factor into your flight training, whether you say I can put X amount a month during training and then maybe it drops a little after that, or maybe you just say this is how much I have and this is what I'm willing to put into my new passion of flying. But realistically, I don't think it's too smart to just set a cap as to this is how much I'll spend on my flight training. I really think you should plan a budget and know after you get your certificate, you're going to want to continue flying, whether it's in a rental aircraft or whether you're going to try to buy your own. There's going to be expenses that come with that. So just make sure that you budget accordingly. Expect it to cost a little more than you want it to, because realistically, 40 hours is the minimum to take your check ride, although the national average is more in the 60 to 80 hour range. I think it's better to just say, I'm willing to put forth the money to fly this many hours a week, and I'm going to stay consistent, and I'm going to push through until I get to check ride. And I want to elaborate a little bit on this as far as the efficiency goes, because obviously the best value for this is going to be the least amount of money for the biggest output. And I think it's been proven that the more consistent, more regularly you can be flying, the less time you spend going and relearning stuff you learned on your last flight. So if you can, I recommend trying to fly at least a few days a week. And I know some instructors will say you can take all the time in the world. You know, some students take a year or two to get their certificate. And while that can be true, it definitely will slow you down and cost you more over the long term, because you're going to be spending more time relearning stuff you've learned before. So try to stay as active and as regular as you can during your training.
What's up, E3 members? John Waters, co-founder E3 Aviation, chiming in here with things that me and Brian think are beneficial for people who are starting out in aviation, things I wish I knew. So I'm kicking off with number 3. Everyone struggles at time. All right, this is one of the things that when I taught students in the Air Force to fly, it's a very competitive environment. You're thrown into a room with 15, 20 other students, all doing the exact same thing, all mostly type A, all competing for the plane, the assignment they want. So it's very competitive. All your scores are typically known. When someone busts a ride, you know about it. So it's really easy to start comparing yourselves to others. And it's just a natural thing to do to begin with. You want to know how you're doing, and it's nice to have a yardstick to gauge it on. So there are going to be times that you struggle. And this is the one thing that I always tell people is like, you're going to struggle at different things than other people. So if you fall into the comparison trap of comparing yourself to other people, it can quickly put you behind. It can be overwhelming. So the biggest thing here is don't compare yourselves to others. You're going to do well at certain things that other people are not. There are going to be times that you're behind, struggling to grasp a concept that someone else is not necessarily going to do. But then fast forward to the next phase of training, they might be struggling, and it's your natural ability. So don't fall into the comparison trap. I know it's tough to do, and you want to compare to kind of gauge how you're doing. But ultimately, when you're going through a formal program, you're going through a syllabus, you have that grading scale available to you. You know what you're being graded against, and if you pass or fail, and what you need to work on. That's what you should measure by. What are the requirements to get to the next license, to get through this flight, whatever it might be. Know those. And that's what you really should be grading yourself against, not against other people. Aviation is one of those things that if you start struggling, it can start creeping into your mind like, maybe this is not for me. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Here's one thing. It's tough for you to know because you've never done this before. That's really where your instructors, that's where they come in as they guide you through the process to learn, grow, and challenge. Again, you're going to face challenges and setbacks in aviation. It is one of those things. It's very challenging. It's very technical. It's very demanding. To expect that you're going to breeze through any kind of training program unscathed is really unrealistic. So again, knowing that you're going to have challenges, how can you push forward and overcome them is the biggest thing. And leaning on your instructors, not getting inside your head, thinking, I'm not cut out for this. Oh, they're doing better than me. Focusing on what is the criteria, what is needed to get through this phase now. We all learn differently. We all grasp concepts differently. Not comparing yourselves to others is really important. Knowing that this is going to be challenging. So from the mental health aspect, not letting it get inside your head, being defeatist, because those things tend to snowball. Once it starts snowballing, it gets really tough to stop it. That's where compartmentalization comes in, which we've talked about. E3 Aviation instructors talk about all the time. Being able to compartmentalize and move on to the next thing. You mess that up, great. All right, whatever. We'll talk about it in debrief. We'll figure it out on the next flight. We'll figure it out in the sim, whatever it might be, but not letting that snowball into things. Same thing applies, and you can easily find yourself in that cycle of constant doubt. It's overwhelming, and you're just not going to perform well in that. So as you walk away from here, know that you're not alone. There are those that have and those that will. So I always say that when someone fails a ride, right? There are those who have, and there's those that will. It will happen at some point to you. It'll happen at some point to your friends. Don't compare yourself to others when you're going out there through a flying training program. Compare yourself to the syllabus. Work through that. Be prepared for every flight. Work through knowing what you are required to do on that flight, what the grading criteria is, and how you need to perform is the most important thing, because you're just trying to go out there and each and every day get 1% better yourself. I think it goes without saying, but we probably need to hammer this home. Mastering the basics. I think of aviation like a pyramid. That might be cliche to say, right? But the base of the pyramid is the left-hand, right-hand skills, the ability to do computations, the ability to read weather, the stuff that's not really, I guess, oh so sexy at times, but you have to be able to know. And where I really think people fall here is electronic devices today. An iPad with a navigational service such as ForeFlight or Garmin is an incredible tool to build your essay. Now, I might be dating myself, right? But when I was learning to fly, that stuff did not exist. It's incredible. Provides, again, tremendous amounts of essay, but you have to be able to do basic things, such as navigating from point A to point B. When that fails, or your navigation equipment fails, or you have an electrical fire, etc., you got to be able to know how to do the bare basics. I'll allude to just a simple story, anecdotally for me, is F-16, right? Very advanced jet. Now, albeit the avionics and navigation aren't that advanced because the plane is designed to kill and break things, not necessarily navigate from point A to point B. It can do it as much as you need, but you don't have a moving map like you do in a lot of GA aircraft today. But there I was over northern Syria. Just completed a bombing run. It was a day VFR sortie, which was nice, usually flying at night. But I've been flying around for like 4 or 5 months there. So I was pretty familiar with the terrain, navigational features, or I guess key features around there. And I had a complete electrical failure. I had to navigate back to the tanker track, which I used off ground references because I've been flying around. Now, if I'd done this 6 months prior, it might have been a little challenging, right? Because I wasn't as familiar. But looking outside the window in the area that you fly around with, knowing geographic, knowing how to read a map, these are just some of the basic things you have to be able to do. So again, multi-million-dollar fighter jet, complete electrical failure. I have to be able to navigate back to the tanker, and I used ground references, old school, point to point, finding my way back to the tanker track because I had paid attention to what was around me and what the terrain looked like and the key features over the preceding few months. So you can utilize, absolutely, you can utilize technology, and you should. You need to know how to use it. It can provide tremendous amounts of essay, but you've got to be able to do the basics. So the basics too, I'll say, people might focus on the next level and getting to the next level, and you can't forget the basics, which is in my world today, as I'm flying the 777 around the world, like doing an instrument approach is putting your pants on to go to work. You don't really think about it. Flying an F-16, you never talked about approaches, departure procedures, because you expected everyone just to know how to do it. But those are the basic fundamental skills that you cannot take for granted and you have to practice. So in my world today, the 777, you don't get a ton of landings because you're going point A to point B for 14, 15 hours, and there's only one landing on that sortie. You might have 4 pilots on that. So focusing on things like crosswind landings, instrument approaches, talking about it, forcing yourself to think of it in my world, or being able to try and go get in the simulator to practice the basics like engine failures, single engine go-arounds, instrument approaches is crucial. It's the building blocks and the stuff that you do day 1, 2, 3, and 4 of your instrument training and your initial flight training, but it's still the most important thing we do each and every day. Taxiing around an airport. You might take that for granted, thinking this is just an easy thing, but that's when you have a taxiway incursion, a runway incursion, bump a sign, whatever it might be, because you're not paying attention. You take those things for granted. So ultimately, you have to go back and you have to be able to rely upon your basic flying skills and not forgetting about and getting wrapped up into what's next or what you're doing today. You got to be able to do it all, but ultimately going back on that foundation, have a solid foundation, is of the utmost importance.
Make sure to set goals and track your progress. I think during the course of your training, it's very easy to get caught up and feel stuck at times. So it's important that you set little goals and track your progress. It might be some maneuver that you're struggling to do at test standards, but maybe you don't realize that you're actually doing a bunch at standard without taking note. So make sure that you set little goals and track your progress. Another thing I think students forget to do is to clearly define their end goal. What is it that you want to do with flying and being a pilot? Are you doing it just for fun, or are you looking to make it into a career with the airlines, or maybe you're going to be a flight instructor? I think this is an important thing to keep in mind and communicate with your instructor so that you can kind of tailor your flight training to put you on the right path to get you to your end goal. Another thing students tend to discount is the importance of ground school and the fact that an hour of ground is as important as an hour in the air. And it sounds weird to say, but honestly, the amount of knowledge that is gained through ground school directly relates to your ability to fly. And sure, you're gonna have to go up and demonstrate it, but when you jump in the cockpit without the knowledge prior to, you're really wasting some of your time and a bunch of your money. That's where the big part with a lot of the finances that come into getting your certificate is gonna come down to how much time you spend with the instructor and with the rental aircraft. So the more time that you can learn the knowledge that's gonna go into your flying on the ground, the more money you're gonna save and the more efficient you're going to be when you're in the air. So I highly suggest you take your ground school seriously, and I know some of this is not the most fun, but it is part of it, and it's very pertinent and important information that you're gonna need to know as a pilot, because this is something that could save your life someday. So if you look at it from that perspective, take it as something important. I think it's pretty easy to understand that an hour of ground is worth as much as an hour in the air.
Choose your company, instructor, and your peer group wisely. I learned to fly a plane up in the Northeast where there wasn't a whole lot of schools and things. I was lucky though that I had an incredible instructor, but I hear some people talk about their instructor and how it's just not working out for them. Look, this is your money. This is your career. If your school's not working out for you, or if your instructor's not working out for you, go ahead and make that change. But do the extra work ahead of time to choose the right school. That's one of the great things about Academy of Aviation. They have so many options all over the place, so many instructors, so many locations. If things aren't working out, they'll help you out and change it. Now, the influence of your peers is almost just as important as your instructor. I wish I had an E3 Aviation back then where we're all here to work with each other, help each other, inspire each other. Hold each other accountable to achieve those goals that you have as a pilot. So a common misconception, it doesn't matter who you befriend when it comes to your training. Why it's important, positive, driven peers can motivate and support your growth, while negative influences can distract and demotivate. Choosing your circle wisely can make a substantial difference in your training and your journey.
All right, having a good network, having a good mentor is crucial in aviation. Someone who's walked the path before you, who can help alleviate, who can help answer questions, help hopefully prevent you from making the same mistakes they did or mistakes a friend made is crucial. How can you do that? Well, you got to lean forward a little bit. E3 Aviation, again, I think is a great resource, right? Here we're a group of aviators, all like-minded, who want to help you further your journey in aviation. So this is a great start. Joining other clubs, going out there and hanging out at the airport, meeting people, networking, going to socials, etc. You kind of got to put your ear to the ground, and you might have to lean forward a little bit depending on where you are. Go out there, take the initiative to go out there and try and find someone who is doing something that you want to do. Is it an airline pilot? Is it a military pilot? Is it an aerobatic airshow pilot? Go out there, seek the people that are doing the things that you want to do. So one, you either figure out like, yep, I do want to do that, or maybe I don't want to do that. And if you do want to do it, they can help you along the path as you figure out how to follow them. I think one of the common misconceptions today is that, oh, you can just do it all on YouTube. Again, this wasn't something that I had access to when I was starting my general aviation career. I think it's an awesome resource. The internet is an awesome, resource full of information. It's the stepping stone, right? Like maybe that gets you in the door, gets you pointed in the right direction. Like I need to go check out this club, or I need to go find this person, or be able to connect via social media to someone that you normally 20 years ago would never have come in contact with or been able to reach out to. So there are some great aspects of the internet to YouTube, Instagram, etc. But it's not the end all be all. Ultimately, sitting down with a person, having coffee, hanging out at the airport, talking to them on the phone, video conference, whatever it might be, that kind of takes you to the next level. And you need to reach out, you need to push to try and build those networks of like-minded individuals. No amount of YouTube videos, no amount of books can ultimately replace a good mentor, a good group to kind of guide you on the path, answer those nuanced questions, really get a read on your situation, what you're trying to do to help guide you along your journey of aviation. Situational awareness, SA. SA is the gift you give yourself, is one thing that I like to say. How can you build your SA? How can you gain SA? This is something that it depends, right? There are a lot of tools out there. Every scenario is different. Dynamic scenarios are different. Emergencies are different. Being able to build SA, maintain SA, realizing that when you've lost SA, all these are crucial and fundamental to being a good aviator. Ultimately, experience will help build your SA, hopefully, right? But even experienced aviators fall in the pitfalls of losing situational awareness and then going down a road they don't want to go down and might be tough to come back from. But today we look at, all right, what tools do I have available to me? And this is where it starts. Whatever plane you're flying, do you know how to use the avionics? Can you get the most out of your avionics without being a distraction to you to build your situational awareness, such as TCAS, the environment around you, to be able to get the weather as you're flying airborne from point A to point B? Maybe you make a decision early based upon the weather that is reporting is different than when you had planned when you took off. So do you divert early because you built your situational awareness with some of the tools that are available to you? I don't know. The joke of like mouth shut, ears open, you have two ears, one mouth, that's for a reason. Your ears are obviously a huge SA builder, being able to listen. One of the first clues that you're losing situational awareness, especially in aviation, is when those radio calls start dropping off. When you miss radio calls, good chance your task saturated, you're losing situational awareness. That's one of the clue birds for me. Be a sponge. Every piece of information that's coming into you should help build your situational awareness. If it's not, then maybe you either need to figure out something new or different to do. Maybe you need to turn something off. Maybe you need to ignore a certain feature on a piece of avionics. But every detail is important. Being a sponge, absorbing all that information, being able to process that information to build the picture and make good decisions is crucial in aviation. When you go out there to fly, you've obviously have built a plan, or at least I hope you've built a plan. The plan is going to change. No plan survives first contact with the enemy, right? That could be weather in this case. That could be an emergency. That could be air traffic control. That could be air traffic. All these things come into play when we're talking about dynamic environments such as flying around. Using your situational awareness, using the tools available to you, being able to process that because you trained in the simulator, you trained sitting on the ground, you chair flew, you thought about this, of how you're going to gather this information, how you're going to process this information and apply it to the situation you're in so you can make a good decision is crucial. Use all the tools at your disposal, weather radar, radios, your ForeFlight or Garmin, iPad, whatever it might be able to gather that information early and make a decision is a key piece. These are all extensions of your senses. They build your situational awareness. You're able to sense more than I did when I was starting to fly in a Cessna that had no G1000 or G3000 and an iPad didn't even exist. We have a whole video on situational awareness. This is the one things we're always struggling and striving to be better at. This is something that you harp on in the military, you harp on in aviation because it's so crucial. Ultimately, it comes down to it: aviate, navigate, communicate. Those are the three things, and you do it in that order. First, you have to fly the plane, right? The aviate piece. Then you have to navigate point A to point B. Do you have an engine failure? Okay, I need to navigate quickly to a suitable landing field. And then I'm going to communicate. When you start messing those up, when you start moving those around in order, and people always just they love to communicate first, that's when things start going south. That's when your essay starts falling off. So I think when we walk away from this lesson, the main thing is know your plane, know the tools that you have available to you, know how to use that and the information it'll provide to you so that it can feed the information fight for you to make good decisions down the road.
Online tools are invaluable. Nowadays, with so much online resources out there, from YouTube to master classes and so much more, there's a ton of noise. Knowing where to turn or who to trust can sometimes be a little overwhelming. Well, fortunately, now you have E3 Aviation Association to get rid of that uncertainty, especially with the new E3 SkyShare app. Gosh, I wish I had that years and years ago. There's so much stuff that's in there for new pilots or older pilots or pilots that just want to find new adventures, find new places, new restaurants, new places to go. It's incredible. Go check it out. And you know what we're doing? Something very special. Here's a gift for you. All you have to do is put a comment in this video down below and give your thoughts to inspiring pilots out there on some of the things you've learned as becoming a pilot. When you do that, our team will get right back to you and give you a special code to get you a free trial in E3 Aviation membership. We look to see you on there, so go ahead and do that right now. Put a comment down there, like and subscribe. So, from understanding the misconceptions of needing a college degree to the importance of setting personal goals, these insights are crucial to becoming a pilot, or even if you have less than 1,000 hours. Now, if you found this inspiring or some really good information, please like, subscribe, but more importantly, share this with other pilots that are looking to get into the aviation world. We'll see you on the next one.